Greetings, Lewis, and welcome to another video. So this is week number 14 of Deck Report. We're going to quickly talk about the Centurion deck because that is what I played this past weekend. Uh, I made one or two changes. I only played at one locals this week, which was at Tower Games on this past Saturday. It was 4 rounds of Swiss. I ended X1. My matchups were against Purely, Dragon Link, uh, Kashtira, and Snake Eye Fire King. My only loss that weekend was to the Dragon Link strategy. Basically, it just came down to both of us trading our non-engine, and they got to their engines before we did. I ended up getting to my engine, but I got hand trapped and I got traded of resources, and the war of attrition was won from their end, just by having like a proper starter without me having a proper way of stopping it, which is kind of unfortunate. Uh, I will say this: both my Kashtira match and the Snake Eye Farking match are one of the most fun matches I did have this entire format against the fire deck. A theory that I brought up last week. I tested it out for this week, this past weekend, and it worked out. It actually won me one game, specifically. And against the Castilla match, the reason I really like that match is because they shifted. They ended on Fenrir, Unicorn, Ogre with both Castilla Birth and Castilla Preparations on board. And I managed to play through the entire thing with my engine. No non-engine cards like Talents or like uh, Twin Twisters or Cosmic Cyclone or stuff like that. Pretty much the monsters in the deck made it so I could break the entire board, and that just felt oddly satisfying because Kashtira is one of those decks that just will have a lot of easy matchups, just because of how predatory the main deck monsters are of their engine, as well as the inclusion of Dimension Shifter being part of their strategy. But yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. Without further ado, let's begin. So we're still playing seven Centurions. I think until Legacy of Destruction, this ratio is not gonna change. I'm still on 8 Bystials. This has worked out very well for me. I'll talk about these in a moment. We're still on 3 Crow, and one new addition that I do have is Skullmeister, which I'll also explain in a bit. The last hand traps are 3 Veilers and 1 Ghost Ogre. So that's 24 monsters in the main. For spells, we're back on terraforming. 3 Stand Up, 3 Oath, 3 Talents, Branded Regained, and Centurion Bonds as like our engine requirements. And the last 4 cards are 3 Imperm and 1 Phalanx. So, things to talk about. Let's start with the Skullmeister first. So, the main purpose behind Skullmeister is that it is another dark hand trap that can also stop Voiceless Voice and can also stop the Snake Eye deck. This can negate Flamberge. This can negate Low spawning from the graveyard. This can negate Voiceless Ritual spell from the graveyard. This can negate Saphira's like Ritual Summon effect. This can negate Promethean Fire Princess from the graveyard. This can negate Garunix from the graveyard. Against more odd matchups, this card can also freeze trap effects and spell effects. Like this can stop Branded Retribution. This can stop Tearlament Soliak, the graveyard effect. This can stop Tearlament Scream from the graveyard as well. Those are not like the more popular matchups, but it's things to consider and keep on your on under your hat. It can also negate both Welcome Labyrinths from the graveyard. It can also negate all the furnitures. It can negate Aria's spawning effect from the graveyard as well. It also can negate Transaction Rollback, which is another really big one. The last two reasons behind it is one is level 4, so you can make the Chaos Archfiend with it. Since we play Centur-ION Primera as our light tuner. And the other thing that gives value to Skullmeister is that it has 1700 attack, meaning that it can run over SP Little Knight if you need to go on that path using your non-engine. Overall, I'm kind of satisfied with the change. I didn't do a lot with it. However, for the merit that it fulfilled in my main deck, I felt like this was justified. Also, its effect is not once per turn, so that is another point that I was kind of justified with this card. Overall, I don't regret that choice. You notice the Etude of the Branded is no longer in my main deck. I just reached a general conclusion that I really don't need to synchro summon like consistently on my opponent's turn in order to play the game. I just need to make sure that my non-engine can interrupt them enough time. Either that or use my like actual engine as other forms of interruption. That's another reason why you see ending Master Packbit in my extra deck, which I will talk about that once we talk about the extra deck. But yeah, with enough hand traps in the main and stuff like the Centurion Phalanx, you should have enough resources to just like don't get blown out by your opponent. Now I'm gonna talk about the Bystials, specifically Druid's Worm. Last week I brought up how Druid's Worm was specifically important because it can serve as a damage sponge against the Zealantis OTK. And it did come up. Shoutouts to Shooter, Jorge Pagan. He tried to OTK me. He wasted a lot of his resources. He literally just nuked my entire board. He tried to go for game, and it was not Druid's Worm specifically, it was Magnamort. However, just having the Bystial in the hand just made it so he couldn't OTK me, and then with Magnamort, I ended up searching for Druid's Worm in the end phase. I just summoned the Druid's Worm, and he pretty much exhausted already half of his extra deck. So and he cannot make SP Little Knight because Promethean Fire Princess was already on the board, and he already linked away for Sunlight Wolf, and he already linked away for the Salaman Great Pyro Phoenix. So meaning that the only other link monster he had left was the Nightmare Phoenix, and wasting 3 monsters just to get to SP Little Knight just didn't seem that worthwhile, knowing that they were going to be in a position where I was going to top deck and just utilize my resources. So this engine performed. The purpose of this engine did its job, and I have no regrets with it. I think moving forward until Legacy of Destruction, the Bystials are pretty much here to stay. Estrak, Artemis, SP, Dark, Ding, Typhon, Angel, Packbit, I'll talk about that. Dispater, Baron, Sword Soul, Angel, Crimson, Calamity, Double Legatia. So I switched Tenji for Packbit. The number one reason is it has 2900 attack, so you can use Packbit under Typhon which did come up for me at least twice. The other really good cool thing about Packbit is that him being spawned into the spell and trap zone, and utilizing your resources as continuous traps, is another really cool avenue with this card. This card also makes it so you can spawn Legatia with Emeth, because without the existence of Packbit, there's no real way of you resummoning Legatia if you push it to the spell and trap zone, even with your Centur-ION cards. So just having a way to for you to be able to respawn Legatia after pushing it with Emeth is really, really strong. I think it's actually kind of justified as an avenue. I only did that play once, but it's really, really good because this kind of gives you another dimension of playing the grind game. Like just resummoning and respawning and and destroying each and every turn just generates a lot of advantage. And in a very simplified game state, you're pretty much not going to lose, even if you don't calamity lock them, even if you just like used very minimal resources. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Now we'll talk about the side deck. Um, Two judgments, Duster. I bumped Twin Twisters to three. I'm still on three Cosmics, three Ash, and three Drool. Against every matchup that you don't need the Bystials, you're just going to side in these nine. If it's the fire deck and you're going second, you side in this 12. And if you're going first, you side in the judgments instead of the twin twisters. Uh, this just works almost every single time. There's little to no issues. I highly respect back row removal this format because a lot of floodgates are in the game that you just don't want to deal with. You don't want to deal with like anti spell with summon limit. The voiceless deck is very annoying because of their back row. Runic Stun is a deck that has been popping up in popularity. The Kashtira's variant of Snake Eyes uh, pretty much wins with their resources. So just cutting them off of their main resources also is really ideal. You have six cards to just deal with Flamberge Dragon's effect and Temple's effect. So that's good enough for me. The reason you don't see other cards like, for example, Evenly Matched is because kind of respect the battle phase in this deck, especially with the ability of just summoning Bystials mid battle phase and just like start punching over my opponent's resources. And you can't do that with Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched also conflicts with your Bystials if you end up summoning them. You can make that same argument for Imperm, but in most scenarios, you're going to Imperm before your Bystials. And if you end up top decking the Imperm, you just hold the Imperm as an interruption for the later turns. Well, you cannot do that with Evenly Matched. That's it for deck report number 14. We're pretty much finishing off in 14 minutes. Uh, More content coming soon. Keep practicing and keep dueling.